Lunch.
You are looking live.
Live at lunch. Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
What the hell's going on out here?
Now, here's Jimmy Ott and Charles Hannegriff.
For some reason or another, you sound a little taller on radio.
Is it live? Is it live? Is it live?
From Finbomb, Sushi Burrito, Poke Ramen. Welcome to the Wednesday edition, Live at Lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Charles Hannegriff, Jimmy Ott, Max Gotro back with us today. Jordan Kitchens back in the studio. Randy McKay with us today. Scott Rabelais with us today. Wes Reynolds with us today. LSU softball underway. They got a 4-0 lead against Mississippi State in the opening game for the Tigers of the SEC softball tournament. Consensus golf picks. We get the NBA playoffs. A lot of day baseball.
Good one this week, huh, Max?
Yeah, I'm excited for this tournament. Philadelphia Cricket Club. I haven't seen it before, but it kind of looks like a major type of venue.
It's the oldest golf club in the country.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think it's up there. Yeah,
and this is the first PGA Tour event that they've ever held there, right?
It's pretty cool. I'm excited to see it. Right before a major too, we've got a lot of storylines going to the PGA where we really didn't at the Masters. Rory was the only guy who was really playing well. Right now, you got Scotty off an 8-shot victory. You've got Justin Thomas winning, going back to a tournament that he's won twice before. Jordan Spieth's got 4 straight top 20s going for the career Grand Slam. So a lot of stories in golf going into the second major of the year.
Yeah, I don't even know how you have enough time to keep up with that, Max, given your duties in Cleveland. This is why you've been absent the last few days. You've had extra shows to do. It's an exciting time in Cleveland. They did exactly what nobody wanted them to do in the draft, and now their team that won 64 games in a regular season has managed to blow 2 games in. Can we call this historic fashion? Here's the stat. Okay,
yeah, I'd say
last 25 years, a team trailing by 7 or more in the final minute of fourth quarter or overtime, or 3 and 1,640. Okay, let me say that again. You're trailing by more than 7 or more in the final minute of either the fourth quarter or overtime. Teams are 3 and 1,640.
One team's 2-0.
The Pacers have 2 of those wins in the last week and a half. Or
the last 3 games.
Yeah, the last 3 games. Last week. I think that qualifies as historic. Last night's game, I don't know. Is it more improbable, less improbable, the same improbability as what the Knicks did the other night or what the Thunder did Monday night? It was certainly a collapse, or the most overrated player in the NBA, according to his peers, Tyrese Halliburton, making a hell of a play to win this thing. But the Cavs fans are less than pleased. Oh, yeah.
They're saying that's the worst non-finals loss in Cleveland history, and I would have to think it's up there. Look, I mean, they were still favored by, what did it close, Jimmy? 5.5 after the players go out. So you lose 3 key players. I mean, Evan Mobley is a big loss for them, and it appears to be an ankle sprain, so I don't know that he's going to be back particularly soon. It seems like Darius Garland is close to returning. There was a thought that he might play last night. He did not. He's now missed, I believe, 4 straight games now. And DeAndre Hunter, who you acquired as well. So they lost a lot, but they were still expected to win this game, and they were up 20 with 6 minutes to go in the third quarter, and completely melted down the stretch. But Indiana, you got to give them a little credit. They're a fun team to watch, and they battled.
I thought that Indiana, this was a classic case where they every loose ball, every offensive rebound. I mean, they just were like going through the motions. I mean, this was a classic case where way more effort. Halliburton, I think they held him to like 4 assists instead of 13-0. In game 1, Mitchell didn't force it really, but man, his shot wasn't going. But he's attacking the rim, and he couldn't be stopped. It was automatic buckets. This was a classic case where they rallied, behind the fallen soldiers, and their effort in defensive, effort in basketball IQ and the execution of the game plan defensively especially was so much better. It was so much better. The shots were just tougher for Indiana. And and Greg Anthony too. Excellent job of just blending in and kind of just really not worried about hollering and screaming and trying to push his social media, whatever. Just basketball, and it was really good. Man, the quality of shots were just much tougher for Indiana. This team wore down. They wore down. That's a lot of minutes going. You talk about the second leading scorer, third leading scorer, fourth leading scorer, defensive player of the year, a great two-way player, DeAndre Hunter, a big piece. I mean, Garland is he can go for 30, 35, 40 sometimes. I mean, it's a lot. And we're still going to get out of it. I mean, they were up, double digits for 90% of the game.
If you look at that ESPN sort of win probability, I mean, it's amazing. Indiana just won at the very end. I mean, it was over. I mean,
it's a total steal job. I mean, and then the missed free throws. They missed 3 of the last 4, I believe. How about Charlie? What do I don't care what you do on the bench. What drives me crazy?
Inbound plays.
That, and how about blocking out on a freaking missed free throw?
Oh, Barkley took him to task on that.
My God, your guy's next to you.
I was dozing off, and Barkley came through the TV screen on that one.
I mean, and I didn't catch that, so I was.
It was late.
Okay.
3 of the last 4, like you said, Jimmy.
Yeah.
They missed.
You missed 4 in a row. You throw a ball completely away. I mean, this was
Max Strus. I mean, abysmal.
and Strus played awesome. Strus played great. Oh, no, but Strus missed all 4 free throws or threw the ball away?
No, he threw the ball away.
Okay.
You had 3 out of 4 missed free throws. Halliburton made the front end of the 1-and-1, or made the front end of the 2, and then
Siakam missed 2.
Siakam missed the 2 before, yes.
Yeah. So I'm sorry.
3
The
out of 4.
Pacers missed 3 out of 4. Coming down the stretch. I mean, how do you lose? Well, I mean, you get 5 points out of 6 points out of a 1 for 4, 2 trips to the line.
Yeah,
man, that's 5 points. That's 5 free wins right there. So, who missed free throws for Cleveland? Did they miss free throws too? Or
they
not?
missed some at one point, but Donovan Mitchell made the last 2 that they shot. He made 3 out of the last 4.
It was the Pacers that missed
Pacers.
3 or 4, and they still. And I mean, it happened a little bit later in the game, but kind of the same thing. Hey, Texas Tech coach, don't feel bad. Pros do it. I mean, they when you blew that double-digit lead, it was just a little bit 2 or 3 minutes earlier that they did it. But this is Charlie 1 in 16-38 before the last 3 games by the Pacers.
Yeah,
and they do it twice.
Here's the thing that I think I'll look back on this game and think about. Cleveland had 3 key players out in this game. What happens when you have key players out for games of this magnitude? You have to have somebody step up, and usually it's the star. The star's got to get. Donovan Mitchell couldn't have done any more. Last night.
What happened with Anthony doing a great job too, and I worry about your boy Van Gundy. Anthony's like, man, this is not a typical minutes. How many minutes did he play last night?
Mitchell?
Yeah.
36.
Yeah. So they didn't keep him out there like they kept Miguel Bridges out there. Okay. They knew he's going to need some break because he was working so hard for his points. He was dead. You see him in between the free throws. I mean, he was gassed. And, I mean, great job. And Van Gundy, he's talking about last night, saying, well, it should be there but at Golden State. I mean, basketball players are geared to play every other day. Dude, it's the playoffs. You tell me don't use up a little bit more juice and
everything's harder.
But he said it.
Yeah, I know.
This guy's been in the league forever.
I get it. Everything's harder in the playoffs. Everything that you could do in the regular season doesn't necessarily translate to the playoffs. That's why Mitchell's performance is
Mitchell put him in play. He can't do it anymore.
That's what you pay your superstar to do.
And his jump shot wasn't there. Keep in mind.
Right.
You know what I mean? But he wasn't like Boston, who Brown says, Maybe we just settled too much. Oh, really?
Yeah.
But anyway, he
lived at the free
how
throw
many
line.
times has he put the ball in, he gets knocked to the floor for an and one? How many times? I mean,
Well, he went to the free throw line 21 times, so you can.
He did?
Yeah,
mean,
and made 17 of them. So he did everything you could possibly ask him to do. But Cleveland drops the first 2 games of this series, and it's now 6 straight.
what's the fan saying? I mean, Max, this is up there.
Well,
You know.
they think, the classic, they're a regular season team, you kind of melt down. But there is a question a little bit of, outside of Mitchell, there's always been a question with the Cavs of some of their other players being a little soft. And it's not the players who are out. Mobley had that question. He's had an incredible season this year. But maybe Jared Allen. They've gotten banged up. The Pacers, that's one thing they've done is they've injured him. And the head coach of the year sort of calls them out. Says that Indiana's trying to rough him up a little bit. He's trying to play hard, and the fans think that Cleveland needs to kind of go back at him. Elbow him if you need to.
Indiana's got a little bit more playoff seasoning. They do. These units. I mean, and we didn't know, but I'm sitting there telling my son, I said, "This is a damn shame." I mean, this team does every. They're playing every game. They can't go. I mean, the worst time of the year to get key injuries. They didn't have injuries like this the whole year.
No, they've been very healthy.
No, and they play. But part of it is how much of it is, that regular season fool's goal.
It might be part of it, but maybe Dean Wade, Jared Allen down low. They need to impose their physical force. That's what the fans sort of think. And I will say at the end, the last call, on Halliburton, questionable foul call, pretty soft. They did not have a timeout left. That was a timeout that was used to get Donovan Mitchell back in the game. So this was not the same as where, you used your challenge earlier in the game. They had a challenge available. There was just no timeouts left. And you can't blame, the coach for that because they needed to get Donovan Mitchell back in the game.
Coached his ass off yesterday. He did not get his message to his team in game 1. And that's where they were mostly healthy, minus Garland, and they played pitiful defense. Had they had this same type of effort, had they had this same type of execution on the defensive end, they're not losing game 1. It's as simple as that. And they still should have won this one. But this was, for the Pacers to score 120, they scored 70 the second half. It was some hard points.
I know I had the under.
Had the over.
I felt good for a while.
What did it go off at?
128 and a half. 228 and a half.
220. I actually got 229 and a half. Not that it mattered.
I'm showing 226 and a half. It closed out at.
Yeah,
So and it's still.
then
they flew over at the end, huh?
Yeah,
In the last minute.
I felt good in the first half. Not as much in the second half. The other game we'll get to here in just a second. The Warriors over the road win against the Timberwolves, which is the 6th straight
Max,
road team to win.
Are you learning who Ernest Biner is?
I am not.
Okay.
Really? All that Cleveland radio you do, and you've never heard of Ernest Biner?
I'm sorry.
Wow. I was going to pull Ted Stepty.
You heard about John Elway.
Of course.
Yeah. Okay, well.
Do you know what he did to Cleveland?
The following year. The drive.
Tell me in the break.
The drive.
They were down. Cleveland's winning by touchdown to go to the Super Bowl, which they've never been to. Mm-hmm. And they got the ball about they're 5-10.
The 2, I thought it was a 98
98
drive. Yeah, I thought it was 98.
2 with less than 2 minutes to go, or right at 2 minutes. Right at 2 minutes to go. He gets in overtime and they lose.
They call it the drive.
The very next year, they have to play. That was in Cleveland. They have to play in Denver. They fall behind 14 points. Bernie Kosar rallies him.
Bernie, yeah. Cuts
it to 7. They go on in.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from Finbom. Sushi, burrito, poke, ramen on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Back here at Finbom. Remember, you can always get the show on demand, 104.5 ESPN.com, LouisianaSports.net. And new Handycast is up on YouTube right now on LSU baseball. Tiger softball has extended the lead now 5-0 against Mississippi State, the SEC softball tournament. So we're trying to, put a face on this trend here, these road games in the NBA, and whether it means anything or not. I don't know what the games have got to do with each other. All I know is that the away teams are now 8-2 straight up and 9-1 against the spread. 26-21 and 1 against the spread in the postseason. So there's been an edge there, and the Warriors capped off 6 in a row last night with the win against the Timberwolves. Before we get into the game itself, does this mean anything to you when you're handicapping the trend of the road teams?
You're talking about 6 in a row road teams, including Golden State. I got you.
8-2 and then 9-1 against the number. But does the Warriors win have anything to do with the Pacers win? Has anything to do with the Knicks win? Has anything to do with the Nuggets win? I mean, it's a cute stat, but I don't know that it figures. That's what I think too. I mean, there's a lot of other factors I could play here. I don't know.
Well, you had the Warriors game was like the Cavs game. They just finished.
Yeah.
I mean, they lost a pretty damn big piece in mid, and they lose him
less than 4 minutes into the second quarter.
They were in hold-on mode.
And never led by less than 9.
9.
Yeah.
9 with about 6 minutes to go or something, and they hit back-to-back threes to put it 15. It was pretty much it. Maybe 4 minutes to go. But, Minnesota adjusted too late, and their star, it was kind of like Cleveland's game 1. Minnesota's game 1. And that's the only thing, Charlie. A little bit of rust, maybe. A little bit of not so much rust, but in these teams that have clinched earlier, because Boston clinched before New York, Cleveland clinched before Indiana, Minnesota clinched before Golden State, and I think it's also just kind of that hold. They were so sloppy. It was so dumb. I mean, it's really, really poor basketball IQ that we saw immediately fixed. They just didn't have the players by Cleveland from game 1 to game 2. I mean, it took a whole half for Anthony Edwards to start attacking the rim.
Oh, Chris Finch called him out after the game. He said basically, look,
well, I mean,
he accused him of effort. He said, if I got to talk to you about effort in the game 1 of a playoff series in the second round, and we're not on the same page. That's pretty strong language against your star.
He did all he could in the second half, but it's 48 minutes. I mean, the cushion was decided. A lot of us we only watched the last 2 minutes, but some of these, this cushion was created by Steph Curry and also Anthony Edwards' poor approach. When you said it yesterday, his jumper's not working. They missed their first 19 threes. Mm-hmm. And he couldn't hit a jump shot. Now, he had one, like it was point blank, back in a putback that he just missed. He was completely off. Attack the rim, get to the line. He did. He did. It was too little, too late. Hey, a guy like Draymond Green hitting his first 4 out of 5. Shit, he's going to talk regardless if he's putting up a goose egg. You'll think he was yapping last night? But, I mean, it's I think that's the biggest thing that the parallel is that these teams are sloppy. It's not just rusty, but sloppy mentally and not really taking the opponent so much. I guess they feel that they have such a good edge that they, are so much rested, higher seed, case for Boston, better seed, where you beat this team all year long.
I guess, but you look over and see Steph Curry, and if you take that team, any team with him on it,
what is your explanation besides just? What besides dumb that you're going to say what Anthony Edwards' approach when he's completely off?
Nothing. I don't have anything better to tell you. I don't have anything different.
When you don't focus, you don't want to grind, and you want to set. Charlie, that's usually you don't have as much respect for your opponent as you should. You should. These guys have done it all.
And Chris Finch agrees with you, and I agree with you. That's obvious. I don't know how that's possible.
And listen, everybody's off last night. The only guy that was on was Naz Reid. That's it. In the second half, they started to get a little bit. But, I mean, you talk about, was Boston bad in game 1 from 3?
They were historically bad. They missed more than any team in NBA history.
Minnesota shot a considerably worse percentage last night.
Yeah, they just didn't shoot as many. They shot half as many as Boston did the other night.
And made a third. Yeah. Of the half attempts, so they were
they were
really bad too.
At least they didn't take as many
because Ant-Man finally in Boston never did because Boston's lead lasted longer, and they didn't feel the need to not settle. And I'm like, well, yes, Brown. I mean, but where's the coach? Where's the coaching in this whole operation? Man, listen, you got to attack the rim. I know one player did. They just ran out of gas, and that was Mitchell. He could not have attacked the rim anymore, and he did it successfully over and over again. And Ant-Man was what? Look at his. If you got his first half and his second half box score, it's like a different player. And so you can't jerk around, man. You can't just fart around too much. It's time to play.
You can't score 11 points in a quarter.
He scored one in the first half.
He scored 31 points in the first half, which they haven't done in 7 years, I think. It's the lowest total in 7 years. And not just playoff, period, in any game.
That first half and the second half, the last 18 minutes of the Boston game, their shots were pretty hard, too. They were defending themselves, they call it. Like you swing at a ball a foot outside, you get yourself out. Mm-hmm. They were defending themselves too much. And, how much they score in the second half when he started attacking the rim? Minnesota.
More.
But I'm going to tell you this. Indiana won despite they took 3 quarters off. Every loose ball went Cleveland's way. Every second chance point went Cleveland's way. They took off. They just managed to steal it at the end.
The old exhale spot, but it doesn't matter. That doesn't happen very often when you exhale in game 2.
Well, it took something historic for them, a historic collapse for them to lose it outright. If you laid the 5.5, you felt pretty damn good for 95% of the game.
Right.
And that's laying points, not just winning.
That exhale spot is real if you steal game 1. The Celtics and the Thunder tonight, I will be shocked if both of those teams don't win. If it hasn't gotten your attention, it shouldn't matter to you, but it does. I'm not saying they're going to cover double-digit spreads, but if they don't win tonight, I'll be very surprised if both of those series aren't evened tonight. After the
Me
game
too,
1.
but I'm surprised right now.
I am. How can you not?
What was the spreads on the games?
Never happened.
The last of these 5 first games of the round.
We've never seen this happen, where all the road teams won. Never.
No. 3 was the most. It happened 7 times. I didn't know if it was the first 3 that were played, the first 3 results we got. I don't know about that. But 4's never happened. And the first 5. Well, you can't have that if the first 4 don't happen. No. So it's unreal. It's unreal.
I got the Shamrock tonight.
80-1 now. What is it now? 191.
191-1 for the last 2 days. All 4
Just keep
underdogs.
rolling it over. Yes, keep rolling it over.
If I had bet it at the beginning, I would be rolling it over. Unfortunately.
We'll bet it tonight. Bet the 2 dogs tonight.
Yeah, but I don't like the 2 dogs tonight.
Well, you didn't like them any night.
Well, I liked them a little bit on Monday night, but not tonight.
Don't forget our friends at United Community Bank, the local way to bank big, with locations from Baton Rouge to Golden Meadow, instead of their newest branch at Burbank and Bluebonnet, just down below Burbank here from Finn Baum. At United Community Bank, running a business can be difficult enough without the right relationship with your bank. With United Community Bank's local business bankers, you're not just a number, you're a partner. A great team of bankers: Prentice Wilkes, Heath Muir, Nicole Glover, Hunter Creed, David Campbell, David Henry. United Community Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Live at Finbaum, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Uh-oh, they let the big dog out.
Boom! Out of nowhere.
It's time for the big dog, Randy McKay, with his best picks.
Big dog, what's going on, my man?
Just surviving a big snowstorm here in the Rocky Mountains. So, one more shot here to go, or the first part of May here. So, wish I was back in North Dakota where it's 80 degrees today. So, kind of some weird weather going around the country.
Cinco de Mayo blizzard, huh? I
I wish I was back in North Dakota where it's warmer. Okay, got it. No problem.
Oh man. Where you at with this hockey, huh? Boy, these games have been on. Have they? I don't know. Max does a post game for the Cleveland shows, the Cavaliers fans, but the Avs fans, boy, they had to be stewing, huh?
Oh yeah, no doubt there with that epic collapse, and of course that got into my wallet as well. I was big on the under there in that Game 7. And can't believe how that game ended. I actually had stars and under set up perfectly, so if he doesn't score the empty net, would have been a big score for me, and disappointing. But yeah, the media's kind of all over Bednar and crew there. They were talking about having the DU coach take over for him, but the DU coach, Carl, he's won a couple national titles, then he just signed a big contract. So Bednar's probably safe. We'll see if they make any other moves, but yeah, of course, getting knocked out by Dallas 2 years in a row isn't sitting well with the Colorado media.
There you go. So, what do you what'd you think about last night? I mean, Golden Knights jump up 2-0, and man, they fall back. It's we spent a couple of segments talking about all the NBA home teams that are going down. Well, Charlie, it's different here. You ain't getting no 80-1 on three road teams winning here. The road teams are the favorites in a lot of these series. Pretty much all four of these series are the road team's favorite. I know Carolina's favorite over Washington. Is Florida favorite over Toronto? I mean, before the series, I think Edmonton over. All of these were the road team's favorite.
Yes, they are. They all four are favored, and tonight as well, Dallas is favored against the Winnipeg team, who somehow, I mean, you talk about a finish there. That's one of the guys who won the best finishes in hockey history there. Them tipping in that puck there with 1 minute left, pulled the goalie and scored twice situation, and gave them new life. And another one that got into my bankroll a little bit, of course, I had St. Louis. But, so this hockey playoff so far, I've been on the wrong end of all these, and hopefully it gets better here in the second round. I
know you had with the under that you shot me in the end of that Stars game too, huh? And they managed to get it once they got it into overtime. Then it was, it was done. Where they were going to, what's that? I forget which. I'm getting them all confused. But the these late comebacks, the totals have been taking their brunt on these too, huh?
Yeah, I didn't have the under in the Winnipeg St. Louis. That was 5,
oh,
5.5, 5, and the books must have cleaned up on that one because that got heavily bet and actually moved from 5.5 to 5. So, the under players took a couple bad hits, 2 games in a row, and then of course getting back to last night there, VGK took that 2-0 lead, and they were looking pretty good, but it seemed like they might have sat back a little bit. It looked like Edmonton made some adjustments and controlled the second and third period and kind of took over the game there. And Hill's got to make some crucial saves there. It looks like they're going glove side on him. He's got to do some adjustments to this Edmonton team.
Yeah, so what do you feel? Tonight, Florida, Toronto, Dallas, Winnipeg. You like anything?
Yeah, big win there for the Maple Leafs there in that game one. I'm not going to touch your game two. I see Florida making adjustments here and tying up the series, but probably won't bet this kind of price. I do see a little bet to make here on the Winnipeg Jets. I believe their top players are going to play. Scheifele probably back. Morrissey, of course, these are all game time decisions. And Logan Stanley, 3 of their better players. Didn't play Game 7, should be back for Game 1, according to some reports I'm hearing. And, of course, you never know what you're going to get in net. But, you got Ottinger against Connor Hellebuck, he's been not very good on the road, but he's been at least decent at home. I would play Winnipeg at home and probably go against them on the road again, just like I did with the St. Louis series.
All right, and so taking Winnipeg tonight, then maybe flipping to the other side when you go to Dallas. What about tomorrow night's games? Carolina at Washington went to overtime, but a quick goal in the overtime period by the Hurricanes. They take a 1-0 lead, and Edmonton again fell behind 2-0. I mean, like the first 5 minutes, it was 2-1 going to the third period. 3-0 they outscore Edmonton, send the Vegas fans home unhappy. So Edmonton, and they're kind of that public team, huh? Are you looking for Vegas to bounce back here?
Yeah, I think Vegas could definitely bounce back. We'll see what kind of adjustments here Cassidy makes as far as with the defense, and then, not giving up them good shot attempts like they did in the second and third period. So I would look under the total probably in that game as well. And the over was heavily bet last night, and it didn't get there barely. I didn't hit an empty netter there either. So So under bettors hung on there, but I think that'll be a lower scoring game where the Knights, hopefully to tie up the series, and the other game should be a close one as well. Probably some value here on the home team here with Washington to tie it up 1-1 as well.
All right, so the bounce back spot there. You hearing all that crying from Las Vegas? Oh no, it's crickets. Bookmakers aren't crying too much about these NBA playoffs, are they, Randy?
No, they were crying about that first round. I don't know about, especially now with all these dogs coming in. They shouldn't be crying at all, but you never know. If they lose a little bit, they're crying. So got to get up the change bucket for them.
Randy, since you're in the Rockies, I got to ask you about the Rockies. I thought last year the Chicago White Sox were the worst team maybe in the history of baseball. They won 41 games. They won 25% of their games. Colorado's 6-28. Talk me out of betting against them every night, because through 20% of the season, they're winning 18% of their games. So you tell me how bad it is, because it looks pretty bad on paper.
Yeah, it does look pretty bad, and they've notoriously been bad on the road and good at home. They're not even good at home this year, and they're missing a couple players. That Tovar is a really good shortstop. He hasn't played this year, so not much talk on the media about the Rockies. They're just disappointing them. They still draw good crowds, and it's a fun place to go to games. So of course they get way more opposing fans there than they do probably the home team. I haven't been to a game in here in a couple of years, but very nice place to go to the stadium. But as far as baseball goes, they're kind of looking like the free square on the card every day. So, but tread lightly, especially in some situations, maybe where they're, that one left-handed pitcher.
It was one right-hander that Charlie knows very well, a kid from Tennessee, who shoved it down the Braves' throat against Chris Sale and beat him 2-1.
Dollander.
Yeah. And then they went to San Francisco and won another game. So you got to stay away from those two in a row. But no, the sports books are pulling for, just as they did for the White Sox last year and still are this year. They're pulling for. Nobody's pulling harder for the Rockies than the sports books.
And the run differential is 2.75 runs a game. I mean, in the major leagues, that's gigantic.
Well, and part of it is.
There might be a better way to bet the Rockies rather than lay the price with the other team. Might be to take the other team's total runs over, because their pitching has been so bad. That might be a better derivative way to bet against the Rockies.
At Coors Field, laying the runs as well. I mean, you got to shop around, because that just a straight money line might be a little bit, and some of the books do too. As you know, I know at the Queen they do it here. You can lay one run. It reduces it some, but it will do it. But no, Charlie, I think Colorado's going to have a worse record than the White Sox did last year.
They're trending worse. You know who they need to play? Missouri. Maybe they could beat Missouri.
Yes, Missouri's 0-24 in the SEC now. Did you say the RPI is Georgia number one?
Texas flipped back yesterday, but they're 1-2. They're very, very close.
They're tied in the ninth inning Sunday.
Yeah.
With Missouri.
Missouri had a little life.
Tied.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just if you want to try and convince the LSU baseball fans that it's wide open, the number one RPI team was tied with Missouri in the ninth inning. But Randy, since they brought Brett Saberhagen in a long, long time ago, they said, man, they're making that move, and he got lit up at Coors Field. I mean, how are you going to bring in pitching to that park? And so part of it's really bad, and part of it is there's nobody that wants to go there. So, but we'll see.
Also, their management is very. They've made some bad moves, and they don't really sign in. They tried with Chris Bryan, and of course that's been a disaster now with him getting hurt, and a lot of other things. Held on to Charlie Blackmon probably too long there, and a couple other things. So their management is pretty poor too with the baseball.
Well, he was a crowd favorite. They gave him the money, and he was, consistent for a long bit of time. But yet, Charlie looked like, he was as old as his beard. and it appeared at times. So, but anyway, so looking at some of that stuff. Did you see the what's my boys? A sharp report on the strength of schedules in the NFL?
Well, I'll have to take a look at that. I haven't had a chance, but yeah, that's usually pretty good. You can find some pretty good angles on that. He's very good at that sharp report. So yeah, and of course we like to bet those look-ahead spots. So we'll definitely have some of those going into the start of the NFL season.
Schedule's not out next week. What day?
About a week or so.
It's next week. I'm
yeah.
what day?
They usually probably a Thursday, maybe.
You know, they leaked
like
it
to
so
Thursday.
early.
May 14th, a week from today.
Yeah, next Wednesday.
Okay,
Yeah.
next Wednesday. All right. So, all right, Randy. I hope you had the winner in the Derby. So,
Yeah, we gave it out on our podcast. Bill talked to a couple reliable horse bettors that he's known for years, so that was given out. So, hopefully everybody listened, and if you're not listening, you can check out my Twitter, or it's on the Crack Wins feed also on Twitter.
what's it called? The Crack.
Crack. It's Wise Cracks with Bill.
Wise
Krakenberg,
Cracks. Okay. Yes.
John Orlando and myself.
Yeah, Bill Krakenberger. So they're very good stuff. Very good stuff. Congratulations on that. So, all right, Randy, we appreciate it, man. We got 4 picks in hockey, or 3 picks in a lean, and we'll looking at this NBA stuff as well. One more thing. They're back on the Denver bandwagon. I mean, what? And do they feel like this was the right move? To make a move at the coaching?
Yeah, I guess so, with the coaching, and then they pulled off that victory, and I think they're going to keep giving OKC some scares. Eventually, I think OKC might win this series, but might be a 6 or 7 gamer. But as far as the local media, they said Malone was just getting too tough in the locker room for the guys, and this kind of thing. And I guess there was a lot of rift between the players, and I guess that cleared that all out. They're playing some pretty good ball.
There we go. Thank you, Randy. Follow Randy on Twitter at RR39. Great stuff as always, buddy. We appreciate it.
All right, thanks, guys, and good luck to everybody out there.
All right. The series prices are out with all that. One of the series has flipped the favorite. The Indiana Pacers now minus 205 to win the series. Minnesota still minus 65. OKC still minus 290. Boston still the biggest favorite at minus 340.
Mother's Day is coming up this Sunday. Get a special, unique gift from Mom at the Thibodeau store or the Pierre Part store. A big selection of custom-made Cypress furniture. So this is great stuff for the patio, for your home. The custom-made Cypress rocking chairs, the benches, the gliders, the swings, the outside swings. All of these things are available at the Thibodeau store, 900 St. Patrick Highway in Thibodeau, and of course at the Pierre Part store as well. So, Jimmy, I agree with you on this.
It's Mother's Day,
Take
baby.
Mom out to lunch or Mom out to dinner, whatever, but get her something that she can use all year round. And these are pieces that, again, they're custom made. You're not going to find this very many, if any, other places. So it's something that Mom will appreciate, and it's unique, and you can still get them. You still got time here. A few more days left.
I hope you do take care of Josie. Now, Rosie, she has food poisoning.
Right.
Josie, we like, okay? So, anyway, take care of Josie, Charlie. She's been so, my goodness, all the hell that you and Sam have put her through.
I know. Well, we're going to do that. The Thibodeau store online, it's doitbest.com/Thibodeau store. Live at Finbom, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from Finbom. Sushi, burrito, poke, ramen on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Sham Sharania says at least a week on Steph Curry with the Warriors. This is a hamstring. Okay, we do this a lot. The difference between a pull, a strain, a tear. We're calling this a strain of the hamstring.
It's the lightest, but you are at risk if you rush it back. And then you pull it. And that's common where somebody returns too soon, and then you're out for extended periods. You're out for It could affect your long-term speed and things like this. Now, they've got all kinds of dry needling and things like that to try and do. It's time. It just requires time, and they do all kinds of treatment, and like I said, the dry needle. But it's gonna be a time. And once it came out that they had determined it was a strained hamstring. Oh yeah. That's old as dirt. We don't need an NBA insider to tell us that he's out for at least a week. You should be ashamed of yourself, Clay, considering that inside information.
Well, I'm not considering inside information, but it is, I guess, official.
Barton.
They've officially ruled him out of Game 2, which we sort of knew. We'll see.
They did that last night.
Yeah,
Kerr basically.
You could tell when you had it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kerr said that.
Yeah.
Hour number 2 straight ahead here at Finbom, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Enjoying the finer things in life is his forte. Let's bring in Scott Rabelais from The Advocate.
And in return here at Finbom, sushi, burrito, poke, ramen, here next to Rouse's, corner of Burbank and Lee. Rabs, how you doing?
I love the intro. I'm wondering the finer things in life are supposed to be with me.
Says the guy who just got back from Augusta and who spent last summer in Paris.
I worked in Augusta.
Right.
I was working in Paris.
The finer things
in
life. Press meals.
I had a team with Gary Player, okay? But aside from that, I was working the whole week in Augusta.
Yeah, you got rained on when you went to Paris for the Olympics for a month, right?
I did. It came down buckets at beach volleyball. It certainly did.
Scott, I want to talk to you about a piece that Wilson Alexander did. It's a few days old now, but it was probably the most comprehensive breakdown of fundraising for football, and NIL fundraising, collective fundraising, whatever you want to call it. And it was really well done. It was really well researched. It started with Brian Kelly basically last December having to, I'm not going to say go door to door, but having to approach CEOs, multiple, and in some cases people who had been giving money to LSU and saying we have to up the ante. Not unlike what Nick Saban did at that very early press conference for Alabama, where he chastised a room full of CEOs by saying you have to give us more money.
Wasn't no press conference.
No. It was actually a
that was a booster. That was a high level booster gathering.
It was an event for Alabama Special Olympics, actually, if I remember right. And he chastised the whole room, saying you have to give us more money. Anyway, Kelly had to go out, and that's the beginning of the piece. It's like, hey, you didn't really think that this was, what you'd be doing at this point in your life as far as a coach. He said no, but it's necessary. What are the biggest takeaways from you from the piece?
One, it demonstrates how Brian Kelly has adjusted with the times. I mean, this is not easy. We had if people may have seen, we had a similar story by Kim Mulkey talking to a bunch of women's leaders, community, businesswomen and stuff like that, and saying how she's having to do a similar thing and how she's not enjoying it. And I'm sure Brian Kelly's not enjoying it too. It was a very telling passage in the book and in the story. And Wilson's story was excellent, by the way. I thank you for mentioning it and lauding it, because I think it's the definitive work on what's going on with LSU and football and the NIL. But it's like, they asked him, but you didn't know, you didn't think you'd be doing this when you came to LSU. And he's like, no, he didn't. But he's gone out there. He realized that their roster wasn't measuring up, and this to the other top teams in the conference, and this was why. And it feels like now they are. Now, of course, that means you got the money, you got the tools, you got the talent. You got to do something with it, and I think Brian Kelly knows that as well as anyone.
The amount of money,
a little while.
Yeah, it has. The amount of money that they raised in the short period of time they did it really caught my attention. We were doing the podcast, we were doing LSU football stuff after the season. We were going through the film with some of these guys they've gotten. It's like, listen, they have spent a lot of money. They have raised a lot of money. They have to raise even more. this is just what it takes to keep up now. And I don't know if they planned it this way or not, but putting this money into a front-loaded situation, well, they actually did plan it, before the House case is finished, which may be tonight. The judge has got one more tweak to make on the roster limits, and then this will be done, and they'll have the $20.5 million to go with, but they front-loaded some of that stuff. I just wonder how, if this had gone just a little bit differently, if they had, won one or two more games last year, I think all the time if Garrett Nussmeier had gone pro, would they go with this approach if they didn't have a proven quarterback coming back? But for whatever reason, and we saw it even this week, they bring in an all Big 12 safety in May at this late day because
that Miami wanted. And obviously, Miami has the means, right?
And they've shoved a bunch of money and a bunch of chips. We're going to spend all summer talking about this. They've shoved a bunch of money into the center of the table on this team, on this hand, on this go round with Kelly, which is for, hey, listen, you've been having playoffs in college football for a decade. LSU's been once. Now, they won it all when they went, but they've been once. He's supposed to make the playoff this year. Now, I don't know what the odds are going to say. He's supposed to make the playoffs with this team. If he doesn't, I don't want to hear about I didn't have this and I didn't have that. This is yours, boss, okay? I'm glad you went out and helped raise the money. I'm glad you got the team you want. If you don't make it this year, it's on you.
It is, and the Wilson, of course, mentions the $1 million that Kelly supposedly put up. So one wonders if this is all. I'm left to wonder if this is all volunteering on his part, or someone said you put your money where your mouth is, Brian, and obviously he can afford to do that, making about $10 million a year. So, but listen, look, this is the ultimate expression of what I started saying last year with the college football playoff expanding to 12 teams. It's pass-fail now. You made the playoff, you had a good season. If you didn't, it's a failure to a degree. Obviously there are a lot of teams out there that can say, hey, we didn't get a fair shake or whatever. If you're in the SEC, you have the ability to at least go 10-2. You should think you should be in the college football playoff. Again, though, LSU has very little margin for error. They're the underdog on the road to start the season at Clemson, as we all know. And that means that if you lose that game, I've covered LSU football since 1992 for the Advocate. This is the biggest. I know recency bias is a thing. This is the biggest, most monumental season opener I can think of for all these reasons. Because they put all their chips at the center of the table. Because they've lost, every season opener going back to 2020. Because of the expectations. Because the playoff, now dictates how your season is perceived, how the health of your program is perceived, and it's enormous. So I think credit to a lot of people, and it was kind of spurred by the Bryce Underwood thing. This is the question I had to me coming out of the story. I don't know if y'all had it. Had LSU managed to hold on to Bryce Underwood, would they have signed all these other great players? Would they have the number one transfer portal class in the country? I don't
Probably
think they
not.
would.
No, they wouldn't have been alerted as much.
Yeah.
A guy that was a commitment for how many years, and it was really highly thought of and how he would impact the program. No.
It lit a fire.
They have to lose the game. Yeah.
They needed some too in LSU. I mean, okay, yeah, he's adapting, he's evolving, but some people have been quicker to adapt. Shouldn't be looking at Ole Miss in the eye on the football field, and if anything, they're probably more talented than LSU. Should not be looking at that program in the eye. That guy's outworking you.
In year 4, anything that you don't have is your fault. Now, if you run into some bad luck along the way, if you have a rash of injuries, I'll hear that argument. But if you are the coach at LSU with the resources that you have at your feet, okay, if in year 4 you don't have something like, oh, well, we didn't have this or we didn't have, it's your fault. I don't want to hear anything else. It's your fault. Okay, this is your job to put a team on the field. High school recruiting, transfer portal recruiting, whatever. It's on you.
And until now, and finally, at least we're seeing a sign though. But it looked like a veteran coach who was mailing it in on his last deal. I mean, this is they've got some really good players, but this has not been the roster. that LSU it's not been a national championship competing roster. Not close. Not close.
They
You
had
pulled
a
the
national-
upset. You pulled the upset against Alabama, and then
You had a national championship offense 2 years ago. You didn't have, and you had the worst defense in the history of the school to go along with it.
Yeah,
So, Scott, how do you feel about this team? I mean, I hear mixed things coming out of spring. I don't put a whole lot into spring ball.
If we don't have optimism about this roster,
well, I've got plenty of optimism about the roster. But
Okay.
I'm curious what Scott's got to say.
all right.
Yeah, I mean, I think just because of the last couple of seasons, what we saw was kind of a one-handed team in 23, and then last year's team was, not awful. As I said, Florida State had an awful season. Oklahoma State had an awful season last year. LSU did not have an awful season in 2024, but it was disappointing and unsatisfying, for LSU fans, and I understand that. Money can buy a lot of things and cure a lot of problems. Two big issues come to mind. You've got to combine the returning players like Nussmeier and Whitweeks and Harold Perkins and Trey'Dez Green with the transfers like Jack Pyburn and Mansour Delane, if I'm saying his name right, if I'm not, correct me, and the new center from Virginia Tech. And the freshmen like DJ Pickett, who is expected to play a huge role. You can't just have a collection of talent. You got to make a team. I think Ole Miss had a collection of talent last year. They didn't have a team, and I'm using the air bunnies right now, the quotes.
Yeah.
That's something that we can't know the answer to until we see how they play. And it's certainly a hell of a tough proving ground to have to go to Clemson, South Carolina to figure that out to start the season. But this is the hand the Tigers have been dealt. And second of all. And second of all, specifically the offensive line. I mean, this is something you couldn't, all the transfers in the world are not going to change the fact that you lost your two starting tackles to the NFL, and you're retooling your line, and you're probably moving your center to a guard spot, because he frankly didn't live up to the mark, didn't step up to the mark last year. So those things are the biggest questions I have going into the season. But the talent, I have to believe, is there.
The offensive line's a huge issue. You've got to mold that. And when you say bring all these guys in motion, this is modern coaching now. This is what you have to do. 10 years ago, I would have looked at this and said, "Man, you're bringing in this many transfers or this many, used to be junior college players. Now it's just transfers." It's a Band-Aid approach. Well, now it's the only approach that you can take. I remember the 2001 LSU baseball team very well. It was Bertman's last year, and they brought in some. For lack of a better term, mercenaries in the transfer. It wasn't a transfer portal back then, but transfers. And the guys that were on that team tell you it was one of the worst locker rooms we ever had. It was a good team. They had plenty of talent, but they didn't like each other very much, and it didn't work. Now you have to mold those transfers in with your returning guys. You don't have a choice, because if you don't go get in the transfer portal, I'll give you a good example. There's offensive line problems, right? Okay, Xavier Hill. Was here for 3 years. Never really played all that much. He goes, he transfers out, and he's an all-conference, smaller conference, but he's an all-conference player. You have to develop these guys quicker than ever, because they'll leave. And the worst thing is, man, you hate that somebody you develop goes and excels somewhere else. On the other hand, you're getting a receiver from Oklahoma, just to use Nick Anderson's name as one. There's a guy who had all-conference potential at his other place, and now you're getting to use him. I saw a mock draft the other day where he's a potential first-round pick next year. We'll see if that pans out. So this is what you have to do every single day, and you gotta make sure everybody's happy, which is really hard to do. Otherwise, they just
everybody's playing by the same rules.
That's it. So everybody's got to do this. It's not like you're.
That's right, and it's in multiple sports. I mean, LSU. Women's basketball team, they had signed the number one high school recruiting class in the country again, because they turned away from the number one recruit in the country, Ayala Chavez, who ended up going to Oklahoma, and they had enough, cash, I guess, to go get four really talented players, but they weren't going to be the team they could be without bringing in Malaysia for Wiley, and they're still probably maybe a forward short. So It's like this in every sport now. It's like this in every sport.
Should the expectations be altered at LSU? Because certainly there's been a little bit of a shift of power with the new rules in college football.
I mean, in what way should they be altered for LSU?
Well, it should be a higher, lower, the same.
That's a very good question. I think I think they're in a sense they're lowered a little bit because it's just like you said, Charlie. 10 years of the college football playoff and LSU's made it one time. Just make it. This team's got to make it there, and then once you get there, we'll talk about whether they performed, overperformed, underperformed, did what was expected. We'll see where they are. Going into the playoffs, they're playing on the road. In the first round game, do they have a bye into a bowl, a bowl or whatever? Like the teams last year. Obviously, Ohio State made working out of playing at home to their advantage and looked great. It should be that team. I think the expectations are, certainly tempered. So I think they're maybe not what they were going into 2019 for this year's team, but they're pretty darn high. They're pretty darn high, and it's just the frustration level has built up to that's exacerbating that, I think.
I think they're higher, and in fact, I think they're a lot higher than they've ever been for two reasons. Number one, the playoffs is now 12 teams. You couldn't realistically expect LSU to be in the top 4 every year, but you can realistically expect them to be in the top 12. So there will be an expectation of playoffs every single year.
No question.
Yeah. Well, I think top,
should. Okay, you said they
top,
are.
Yeah,
that's what,
I think top 12 is realistic. Yeah, top 4, no, I don't think anybody can realistically expect them to finish in the top 4.
Yeah, but top 4
year.
is advancing to the semifinals. I mean, let's.
And if they make the playoffs and lose in the first round 3 straight years, then we'll deal with that when it comes. But I think that the expectations are higher, and the second reason is it's very common now to say the players have to do this because they're being paid. Whereas we did this a long time. I did a lot of shows, a lot of post-game shows where you say, listen, man, I don't want to just call out a college kid who's on scholarship. I don't want to boo a college kid. He's a college kid. They're pros now. So if you come in here and you get a certain amount of money, I'm sorry, this is what comes with the territory, and those expectations are raised. And now that you have coaches in press conferences after the thing saying he's not doing what he's being paid to do in a college press conference. So I think they're raised for those two reasons.
I think they should be lowered a little bit because I think that LSU's advantage, they've given up a little bit of that edge due to the financial stuff.
Which they're trying to fix.
You rally it this year, so but it's not
you're constant. No amount is enough. I'll tell you the one line I took from Mulkey was, you guys are contributing so I don't retire. I'm paraphrasing. I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but it was, hey, listen, I'm not chasing every dollar. We're going to have enough money to do this. I'm going to go out and do my fundraising, but this is not what I want to do. This is not – I don't enjoy this. I don't think any of the coaches enjoy this. Hell, who does? But it's what you have to do. Rab, we appreciate it, man. Enjoy the baseball. I think you're back on this beat now that the
oh yes, I'll be at the box all weekend. It's been an enthralling symposium, gentlemen. It's endless stuff to talk about with this topic. That's for sure.
Thanks to Wilson for hand feeding us a topic. We appreciate it. Thanks,
yeah,
Scott.
great work on his part. Thank you.
All right, don't forget our friends at Workbox. Workbox, I mean, all of the different movable storage needs. Again, our shipping containers, they come in 8x8 or 8x10 feet for limited space situations. 8x20 give you more storage space without taking up unnecessary space. And then the Big Daddy, the 8x40 feet, that's the largest for jobs requiring a lot more space. So these are ideal, especially for if you're storing or for moving at the house. You bought a new house, you get everything, and you could do it at your own pace. So the units can be, and then if they're work sites, fish hunting camp, blinds and things like that, climate control, shelving, different material, we can turn them into anything that you want. Give my buddy Martin Padiel at Workbox a call, 343-4886 and WorkboxLLC.com.
LSU softball beats Mississippi State 5-0. They advance to the quarterfinals of the SEC tournament. Tomorrow morning they will play Oklahoma, the number 1 seed. Live at Finbaum, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
From east, north to south, but we're heading west. It's Wes Reynolds from VSiN.
Wes, how about your Pacers, huh?
You know, ironically enough, 30 years ago today, if you guys will remember, it's the anniversary of the 8 points in 9 seconds. Reggie Miller, of course, in Madison Square Garden against the Knicks. And the last night, it felt very eerily similar to that. It wasn't quite 8 points in 9 seconds, but it's been a long time since the Pacers have had that one like that where they really pulled it out. I know they did one against Milwaukee to close out the series in game number 5, but it's now twice that they've had this in the same postseason last night. And you know, got to give credit to this team. I know Cleveland was down a couple players last night, but to come back after they were down 32-15 at the end of the first quarter, so you're thinking, okay, they're happy with the sweep, right? Or the split, I should say. They're happy with the split, and they're going to move on and, you know, go back home 1-1. We're happy with where we are. But if you're Cleveland, you got to be thinking, we got 48 from Donovan Mitchell last night, and we still couldn't hold on. So, you know, Cleveland, we'll see if Garland and Mobley come back, and also Hunter, who did miss game 2. But they've got to be scratching their heads like, how did we let this get away? And, you know, credit to the Pacers. This is a tough team, and this was the 4th best record in the NBA since January 1st, and I think they got discounted. I think a lot of these underdogs around the league in this series got discounted, and every single underdog won game 1 on the road for the first time ever in the conference semifinal.
Always talked about it a lot. Any theory to this?
Well, I don't know if there's, you know, really much there per se. I just think that a lot of these teams get maybe slightly overvalued. Look, the favorites were the favorites for a reason, and justifiably so, but you've got to understand regular season results are more meaningless now than ever because you never have guys playing all 82 games. I think, what were there, like 6 or 7 players throughout the entire NBA that played all 82 games, and you just don't have that. That's why I was kind of looking at that Pacers-Cavs series where it's like, okay, Pacers won 3 of the 4, but you had various players out for both teams, so it's tough to really put too much stock in what you see in the regular season. And I just think the playoffs are a different animal anyway, and you're getting, you know, where I think the teams are more equal, where it's like all hands are on deck, you know, unless you get injuries, of course, like the Cavs got last night.
It's one of the reasons. Certainly, it's almost a different sport between the regular season and the postseason, and no league at any level has more of a difference in style of play, intensity, in the whole bit. I mean, just player participation. We want to, and it's kind of, and so I can't bet, you know, sort of these upstart teams, you know, for future bets to win it all. But what I have had some success in, I did it again this year with the Rockets, with the Cavaliers, you know, some divisional bets, you know, to have the best record and stuff like that, or during regular season bets. And we just wondered if it was going to translate to the next level. And I told Charlie, I want to see what the Rockets are going to do. I want to see what the Cavaliers are going to do. They couldn't have looked any better in the first. But, you know, our buddy Max does the a Cleveland postgame show, so he can give you a firsthand report of if they're worried, because absolutely they're going through the Cleveland history books right now, Wes. Max?
Series is over, Wes. Series is over, according to Cavs fans.
Look, man, I had Cleveland people lashing out at me on the X last night, and I wasn't even trashing the Cavs. I was cheering for the Pacers, man, and they were angry because they've got some PTSD because they've been through this and down this road before. So, you know, I can understand just by the few that lashed out at me, I was like, okay, man, they're going through some things right now.
Wes, I watched both of them closely, and I thought it was really, really poor defensive approach by the Cavaliers in Game 1. Had they had the same approach that they did last night, they'd have won Game 1 in all likelihood. I mean, it was much tougher, and I thought that the Pacers for 3 quarters kind of exhaled and just kind of we're content, and we're just letting this you know, your second, third, fourth leading scorers team without that, just kind of letting Donovan Mitchell get to the rim whenever he wanted. Well, and want him, just give him these touch fouls. It was, and then Mitchell kind of wore down, and the Pacers were just close enough to kind of come back and bite them. And look, Charlie, we said this. I think we were talking about Texas A&M. Oh, they got a guy who wants a shot. Mm-hmm. Oh, they got a guy. I mean, he is. I mean, how cool and how calm. I mean, this is for the game. This is it. He's going to step back and knock down his three with 1 second to go. I mean, overrated is what the players voted him as.
That's what the players did.
Maybe not in the postseason when the game's on the line, huh? Bringing up memories of Reggie Miller, huh, Wes?
Yeah, exactly. And look, he is very Reggie-esque. Now, Tyrese at his core is actually a really nice kid, even though he gets a lot of grief. Reggie was the cocky, cool California guy. I mean, Reggie really embraced being that heel and being that bad called I Love Being the Enemy. And, Tyrese, I think he's starting to kind of embrace that, even though that's not his natural inclination, to be kind of the heel or the bad guy. But he went into Cleveland and did the Pedro Serrano celebration last night for Major League. So he's embracing it, and I think that this guy, he fits Indianapolis like a glove because he's a Midwest kid from Wisconsin. He played at Iowa State. He's a big fish in the small pond in the smaller market in Indianapolis, and I think he's really embracing it. And this is a good time to be a pro basketball fan in Indiana with Tyrese and, of course, Caitlin Clark about to get underway next week.
Truist Championship. We got a good feel this week. Who are we looking at, Wes?
Yeah, it used to be the Wells Fargo, now the Truist Championship. It is in Philadelphia because Quail Hollow down in Charlotte is going to be hosting the PGA next week. So didn't play a lot this week. Only have 4. Might add a 5th here in the afternoon. But I played Xander Schauffele 16-1, who's kind of starting to work his way a little bit back into form after the rib injury where he missed 8 weeks. So kind of on the comeback trail, maybe peaking at the right time because he's going to defend that Wanamaker next week at the PGA. He's been very good on the Tillinghast designs. Tillinghast, of course, the Philadelphia Cricket Club member that's the designer of this course. Now, if you know that name, he designed Wingfoot, he designed Bethpage Black, which are featured in the U.S. Open, but those courses are much longer than this one. This is a par 70 of about 7,100 yards, so not an exact facsimile, but Xander Schauffele, I think, should play very well this week. As should his Ryder Cup partner, Patrick Cantlay, a little over 20-1 here. Starting to get the off-the-tee game going. It's really been the putter that's kind of, I think, plagued him over the last really few months and pretty much throughout 2025 here. But he is on the bent grass green. And 5 of his 7 PGA Tour victories are on the bent grass. And he's a guy that wins a lot in the Northeast, or certainly has over his career. So I think he should do very well this week. And then a couple guys down the field. Let's go with a couple veterans that have some success in the Northeast. Keegan Bradley, the current Ryder Cup captain, 50-1. Solid golf in 2025. 2 top 6s, 6 top 20s. Now he goes back to the Northeast. He won a couple years ago at Aronimink right there in the state of Pennsylvania. Also won the Travelers in Connecticut. So a guy that plays pretty well in the Northeast, as does Justin Rose, who's now, I guess, had a month to recover, even though you never really recover when you lose a playoff at the Masters, especially the second time in your career. But Justin Rose at 75-1, I think he proved, hey, you know what, I can compete out here still with these guys, even at 45, and he's trying to make that Team Europe Ryder Cup team, I think, for one last time. This is going to be his last chance to do it. He has won in the Northeast, too, won the U.S. Open at Marion, won at Aronimink, won at Congressional, 7 of his 11 PGA Tour victories on bent grass greens. So Justin Rose is, I think, a guy that could be sneaky good this week, but we don't really have any course form here because Philadelphia has never hosted a PGA Tour event. So you're going a little bit with gut this week. So you're looking at strokes gained approach. You're looking at strokes gained around the greens. These greens are pretty tough. You're also looking at sand saves. By the way, this course here at the Cricket Club, most bunkers they've seen this year on the PGA Tour, I think 118 in all.
All right. So we got plenty. Max, anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, I agree. It's hosted U.S. Opens back in like the 1900s, 1907, 1910. It very much feels like that. It feels like a major championship that's just, it's not long enough. So we saw Rory McIlroy actually comment on this today. He came in kind of thinking he was going to plot his way around, hit some lesser clubs off the tee boxes, and then he eventually realized, no, I can just drive it over all the trouble and actually get it into an advantageous spot. So I think it does favor a longer hitter, but it's a golf course that it's really nice. As he mentioned, it's got a lot of acclaim to it. It was the first country club in America, but it hasn't quite expanded for the current modern game of a tour level tournament.
Is Thomas Jefferson long off the tee? I mean, was he good putter?
I guess so.
Good putter. Yeah. John Adams, good short game.
Oh, yeah.
The equipment and the training. Yes, this is something that's familiar. All right, Wes. The Pacers going to close this thing out, and of the other three, which series favorite is in most trouble?
I would say I might say Boston, actually. Now, you're concerned about the Knicks a little bit because they're not very deep. We know Tibbs rides these starters, but, you sometimes you get a feel you just don't shoot the ball well. I know a lot of people will say Minnesota, but I think we don't know what Steph's injury is going to be. We know he's going to miss game 2. I still think Minnesota is the better team and pulls that out. And Oklahoma City's been the best defensive team all year. So I would probably say of those three, maybe the Celtics are the most in trouble.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I would say just the other way. I think they're going to have a little different approach from here on out, but we will see.
Maybe don't shoot 73s. That'd be a good idea.
Exactly. And Brown said after, I think we may have settled too much tonight. Didn't attack the rail really. So it's been a theme. See Ant-Man in for half one, number 1 yesterday. Great stuff as always, Wes. We appreciate it. At Wes Reynolds 1 on X is where you can find all of his stuff. Good luck, Wes.
Thanks for having me, fellas. Appreciate it.
All right. Don't forget our friends over at Go Chevrolet. Go Chevrolet in the Laplace area, and then also the Go Automotive Group in Plaquemine as well. Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, and my buddies over at that. My buddy Lee Carney at Go Automotive. I drive a Go Automotive. When I was in the market for a new vehicle, I went and got my Tahoe from Go Automotive. Been knowing Lee for a long time. Lee, heck of a great high school basketball player. Some of those great Bel Air, Glen Oaks games are legendary back in the day. But whether it's the full-size pickup like the Silverado or the Colorado. How about, we talk about the Tahoes, but the Suburbans, the Traverses, the Equinoxes, Blazers, all of those. And, yes, everything from the Malibu, Camaro, Corvette as well. Go Chevrolet. Go see my buddy Lee Carney down in Laplace, or you can check him out online at GoChevrolet.com. I'll just talk about the great folks over at Go Chevrolet. I drive a vehicle from Go Chevrolet. Go see my buddy Lee Carney and the gang over at Go Chevrolet.
Live at Finbom. Live at Lunch 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Our Wednesday consensus golf picks are brought to you by Dana Brown at the law offices of O.C. Brown.
Dana Brown at the law offices of O.C. Brown, your law firm for a lifetime, 343-1111 at ocbrown.com. Both Charlie and I have used Dana's specialized, legalized team at different reasons at different stages of our lives, and never hesitated to recommend them to others as well. Downtown, Dana Brown, 343-1111 and ocbrown.com. Max?
Yeah, I'm going to start off with the same guy Wes did, and Xander Schauffele this week at the Truist, 18-1. He's pretty much 16-1 market wide, so you can find a 16-1 pretty much everywhere. But really like where he fits in this type of golf course. We're kind of guessing a little bit because we haven't seen a tournament played here. But the one thing you notice off the tee, if you kind of look at it from an overview, from a satellite perspective, all these carries of all the trouble off the tee. The bunkers, there are a lot of bunkers, as Wes mentioned. You have to carry it past 290 yards. So I'm kind of eliminating the guys who aren't going to get past that trouble. So you have to be able to carry it past that number. And in that case, you can just bomb driver all day long, bomb and gouge the golf course, hit it as far as you can, and then figure it out from there. These are very difficult greens. That's the real challenge of this golf course. Slopey, fast, bent grass greens. And Xander Schauffele is somebody who's done very, very well at that type of golf course where the greens are bent grass greens. So Xander Schauffele, He's coming off that rib injury surgery earlier this season. He's not played the best, certainly not to the caliber that he did last year, but he's got top 20 finishes in his last 3 starts. He's had 2 weeks off, and his approach play has still been very good, and I think that's going to be important this week. He hits the ball plenty far enough, so Xander Schauffele at 18-1, I think he could really go into his defense of the PGA Championship on a high note and possibly win this week at the Philadelphia Cricket Club. Next up, I'm going to go with Ludwig Oberg, 18-1, another player that maybe not in the best of form by his standards, but another player to me that's long enough to carry this trouble. He's kind of struggled a little bit since he won the Genesis, but even when he won the Genesis, it was a little bit out of nowhere. He had played pretty well in the swing season, the fall season events, but had that sickness that took him out of the Torrey Pines tournament originally at Farmers Insurance, and then he withdrew from the Pebble Beach, and then he won out of nowhere. So I'm comfortable at least that if he gets in position that he can find a way to close this out. And to me, if you're betting someone at 18-1, you have to trust that when they're in the conversation on Sunday that they can close it out. That's the reason I'm not on Patrick Cantlay this week. He's someone who fits this golf course very well. I just don't really trust him on a Sunday in contention. But Oberg, ultimately, I think he fits this in terms of being able to hit it far enough. And then from there, he's a pretty good sand save player around the greens if that's needed. He's good on these fast greens. He's a pretty good putter overall. So Ludwig Oberg also at 18-1 along with Xander Schauffele. And then one long shot here just because I have room for him. Taylor Pendrith at 80-1. The Canadian is very much a long hitter. He's a bomber by tour standards. Also very good on par 4s of 400 to 450 yards, of which there are 7 this week. And he's pretty good at just hitting the green and figuring out from there. So these greens, as fast and as undulating and fun as they will be on TV, I believe, he's pretty good. That they're circular, so you pretty much, in instances, just have to aim for the middle of the green and figure it out from there. And that's something that Taylor Pendrith does pretty well. So just 3 guys for me this week at the Truist with the uncertainty. I'm going to go a little bit higher up the board than I normally would, but Schauffele, Oberg, and Pendrith, my places.
All right, so our comment, it's one player, and that's it, and that is Xander Schauffele. You heard Max mention Oberg and Pendrith as well. You heard Wes mention Cantlay, Bradley, and Rose. And then our third contributor, Jeff, is JT, Henley, Straka. Burns is looking at Burns' putter, saying it's going to be a putt, value in the putter a little bit more on those slopey greens that you're talking about. And then the bombs away with Tom Hoagie. So that gives you a list of all of our golfers for this week's consensus picks in Philadelphia. Charlie, back when we were in grammar school, that goes back to the history of that course.
When Benjamin Franklin was in grammar school.
1854 when it was founded.
We're brought to you by, 1854? I thought it was 1754. It's 1784, no?
1854.
Oh,
that's long enough, Charlie. I mean, come on, dude.
I think Franklin was dead by then. So,
right.
But, that goes back a ways.
Electrocuted?
That's pre-civil, 1854.
1854.
Yeah, it's pre-Civil War.
Yes,
okay.
Charlie.
Yeah, it's a ways.
Yes.
We're brought to you in part today by Total Maintenance, AC, heating, generators, electricity, plumbing. Total Maintenance, making sure nobody goes to sleep hot. Total Maintenance with service today, every day. That's been their slogan since 1980. They're one of the oldest and largest AC and heating companies here in the city and in the state. They're also in the New Orleans area. Authorized dealer for Carrier, American Standard, Daikin, Rheem AC units, Generac and Cummins generators for all your electrical and plumbing needs as well. In Baton Rouge, call 480-1000. In New Orleans, 841-3300. Service today, every day at Total Maintenance. George Pickens is on the move. Utah's got a name for their hockey team. We'll give you an idea on what we think about tonight's 2 games in the NBA. We'll come back and wrap it up here at Finbom. Live at Lunch 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from Finbom. Sushi, burrito, poke, ramen on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
How do you feel about the Utah Mammoth?
Yeti, they chose first, and I think Yeti, is that a good move by Yeti? The cooler people to step in and say, we sell to a lot of other people besides just Utah Jazz fans. We don't want
I don't think
some
Yeti
Celtics
told them
fan.
they couldn't do it, but what they couldn't do was get a trademark. They couldn't get it. They couldn't get exclusivity on Yeti. I think they could have still done it, but
I think they stepped in.
But they can't tell them you can't name it Yeti. They just couldn't get a trademark on. It leaves you vulnerable to a lot of merchandise. What are you saying? Unauthorized use of your logo and stuff like that when you can't get a trademark. So I don't know who was the Yeti people specifically, but yeah, that was the problem.
I think so. This should come at no surprise. This city has some history of botching these things up. I mean, it's, we can be nitpicky. Oh, that's our team. It was our name, the Jazz, and stuff like that. Our colors, I mean, green, gold, and purple. I mean, come on, the Mardi Gras colors. But is there any city in the NBA that's less jazzy than Salt Lake City?
No.
It's not even close.
There's not. I mean,
and they're a distant 30th, huh?
Yes, for
okay.
sure.
I mean, so Mammoth, whatever.
It's got a really cool logo. This woolly mammoth with tusks. It's dark blue and light. It looks like dark blue and light blue.
Okay.
So it's actually pretty cool. You see the George Pickens trade. The Steelers finally moved the
Reminds me of another guy.
Talented but troubled receiver Pickens to the Cowboys for a third-round pick and a swap later on in the draft.
They moved on Antonio Brown. They'll move on this guy because Antonio Brown, to be fair, he certainly had a better guy throwing to him, but Antonio Brown, this guy ain't Antonio Brown, and they moved on him.
Yeah, Pickens, look, on paper, this looks like a great move. Okay, you're Dallas. He's got 1 year left on his contract. If he goes, he produces and behaves, you can re-sign him. If he doesn't, you can get a compensatory pick for him next year that'll kind of level out what you gave up, not quite 100%, but like 80 or 90% will level out what you gave up in this draft. You want to put somebody on the other side of CD Lamb that'll attract attention. Well, yards per target, Pickens is top 3, 4 in the league. So on paper, it looks fine. Now once you get off paper, it's CeeDee Lamb's going to catch 100 balls next year, maybe 120 balls next year. As Pickens going to start chirping when he doesn't get the ball. The second thing is, when is he going to start demanding a new contract? I'm guessing yesterday, because he's got 1 year left on his deal. If you can get through those two things and just have him go play, you've probably done pretty well here. They wanted to draft Ted McMillan in the draft. Carolina beat them to it, and they didn't have another receiver. So from Dallas' standpoint, I think it's a calculated risk. For Pittsburgh, they had enough of this guy. It's not like he can't play. He's good. I mean, we saw him back at Georgia. Would he have made a difference? I'm not saying Georgia would have won that SEC championship game. They weren't beating LSU that year. But when he came on the field in the second half, didn't they look a little bit different? I mean, he's a talented guy. He's just a pain in the butt. He's immature. Mike Tomlin called him out a bunch of times. The penalties.
Wide receivers are a pain in the butt to begin with,
yes,
Charlie.
Okay,
we over and over. I don't know. I give Delicano a hard time all the time. I say, man, you guys, you're Dallas most anti.
He's high maintenance. Come on, everybody but him, maybe.
But I mean. But this guy's near the top of the hill, and he's like I said, he's talented, but he's not as good as some of the others. Is he? Where is he? I mean, just football ability wise.
I think on the other side of CD Lamb, he can have a really good year if
he can
shuts his mouth and.
Well, he's not going to shut his mouth.
Well, then. Dallas's risk is mitigated because they don't have a lot of. If I had to sign him to a long-term contract, I'd be terrified. For 1 year,
no, that's why Pittsburgh's moving on him.
Yeah,
they're not signing him to a long-term contract.
No, and I don't know if Dallas will either. Depends on how he goes this year. Thanks to the folks here at Finbom. Tomorrow we're at Walk-Ons for Jimmy Max and Jordan back in the studio. I'm Charles Hanniger saying thank you and good afternoon. Stay tuned for Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.